Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the new segment of your favorite podcast, the segment that Sean and I have named Eerie Encounters with Sean and Nick. This is one of those pre recorded episodes while we are on vacation. And again, for tonight, we have prepared some of the supposedly true eyewitness scary testimonies and stories that we would like to analyze through biblical perspectives so that you as community of believers and maybe some of you as non-believers, you're still welcome and loved on the channel so that you will benefit and while maybe enjoying some of the horror stories with us, you will also learn how to resist and how to dissect these diabolical schemes. Sean, welcome back. Thank you for spending time with us again.
Good to be back.
Thank you. We will continue reading some of the public domain horror stories. And do you want to go first with the following story?
Yeah. We're going to jump right in here. When my mom was still married to my biological father, they lived in Pensacola, Florida. He was an actor at the time, and his troupe performed at the Sanger Theater. My mom wasn't allowed to drive due to being pregnant with me, so he would have to do all the driving. She would often get stir crazy and suffer cabin fever, so she made him take her with him to dress rehearsals. My mom eventually took it upon herself to help out in the rehearsals. While the actors practiced their lines, the orchestra rehearsed their music, and so on, my mom would move around the theater taking notes. She would write down any issues she encountered when sitting in different sections of the house, like if a prop or a piece of set blocked the view of an actor from one angle, if one actor's mark happened to obstruct the view of another actor on their mark from another angle, or if the orchestra's performance of Heaven on Their Minds made it difficult to hear Judas singing. At the end of the rehearsal, she would pass her notes along to the director and producer, who would then pass them onto the paper people, or onto the proper people. During one particular rehearsal, my mom was sitting up in the balcony and proceeded to head back to the main level. The lights were still down, so it was pretty dark, and as she was 7 or 8 months pregnant, couldn't see her feet. She missed a step and nearly fell forwards when she felt something grab her right arm and pull her backwards. It had a very tight grip on her arm and began to pull at her, urging her to go already. She proceeded down the stairs, noticing the grip not releasing at all. When she got to the landing to the main level, she turned to thank whoever pulled her up, but nobody was there. There were no marks, no bruising, nothing to show that her arm was grabbed. Man,
So mysterious. Like, I feel like this was like a Casper, like your friendly ghost, but I don't know what else to say. Like, this is one of those few rare instances where actually this enigmatic experience with a spirit or a ghost will be beneficial to the person because the lady was pregnant and she just said, "Oh, I just felt someone pulling me so I wouldn't fall, I wouldn't misstep and fall down." And mind you, by doing that, she would not just hurt herself, but also the baby. Maybe she will miscarriage, maybe the baby will die. We don't know.
yeah.
And then when she turns, there's nothing, there's no one. Like,
Mm. I wonder if this person's mother or sister or whatever happened to be praying for them, and God sent an angel to prevent them from falling. I mean, I I believe that our prayers are effective. I believe that the prayer of a righteous availeth much. So I think that even though we have some spooky stories that might involve something more malevolent, this here, I mean, it could easily fall into the category of an angel that was just kind of watching over, even though it happened in kind of a creepy, semi-dark environment. Um, Angels are everywhere.
yeah, that's a good point. Like, I mean, we see this happening in the Old Testament more than in New Testament, but God doesn't change. Angels don't change.
Mhm.
They can, like demons, manifest, and even more. And they do it, I would say, in a more proper, right, and just way. Like they come because as messengers of God, they come to help people, right? And it could have been an angel. Yeah, it is true. Even though they're spiritual beings, they can take a form of flesh.
Right.
I just find it amazing.
And what is it, Psalm 91 that says that he will lift you up and not let your foot be dashed on the rock? So, I mean, that's very possible that this was an angel that was ministering to her in that moment.
Yeah, yeah. I can go slowly with the next story.
Oh, okay.
Um, I remember on this Thursday, I had just gotten home from school at around quarter past 3, and I went straight to my room. So I was 11 then, so 11 years of age. And the family I was raised in, we were very independent and we taught ourselves to look after each other and don't open the door unless it's family. Anyways, I came home that day and I went straight to bed because I was tired. And I remember that was the same day my brother would be getting home from his rugby trip at around 9 p.m. He was 16 and my mom was 36 at that time, and she was at work, and I won't be getting home, and she wouldn't be getting home until 10 p.m. Okay, so this person was alone, no brother, no mom. I woke up that Thursday evening with the house so freaking dark that it was like a day. It was dark gray or dark blue color with a man standing at the edge of my bed. Just standing there, stared at me, breathing so heavy, as if he was like one of those idiots trying to creep you out at the end of the street. Well, this was him. I swear it felt like hours, as if it was a tunnel vision while listening to him breathe so heavy in and out. I just have to say, I would freak out. I don't care about your age, gender. I don't care about anything. If I was there and it's night and I'm alone and some strange person is there, and I'm saying person because I'm not saying it's human person. Strange person is there, breathing heavy like that. That's like, oh no, that's it.
Yep.
I hmm?
I was just gonna say I've got weapons all around my nightstand for that reason. If someone wants to break in my house, it's game on.
Yeah. I tried not to acknowledge him. Dude, how can you not acknowledge? You're the only two people in the house, and he's trespassing. If it's he, maybe it's it. And it's breathing heavily. And you're like, okay, like there may be a monster right there or a killer. I'm like just chilling, like, hey, let me turn on the TV or make popcorn because I'm just gonna act like that's like, I mean, no. This is not you're sitting in a park and there's a strange person sitting on the same bench like you, so I'm gonna act, but there's still people there. I'm safe, and eventually I'm gonna walk out and just go my way. No, like you're in the same house with this person.
Yeah.
Okay. I tried not to acknowledge him standing there, but what gave me goosebumps even more was hearing a woman's voice whisper in my right ear as if I felt the heat touch my skin, saying, "Look." I turned my head. It was an instinct, like what in the world was going on with me? I turned my head so fast to see where that voice was coming from. I instantly regretted, because the last thing I remember was that I looked back at that man, and it was like a sudden snap. He started charging towards me, and seeing his mouth open and this horrible scream sound come out from his hands, aiming for my neck. I was screaming so loud that my dog broke his chain and ripped the back door into shreds, growling and barking, trying to get me, seeing my bedroom door slam with this loud bang being heard.
Good dog.
Sean, wow. So this entity, this person was just there for a while, and it seemed as if it was almost, I won't say neutral, but just observing. When the girl heard the word, a female voice in her head, she heard the word turn. When she turned and actually pay attention to this person, That's when this person started running after. I imagine like almost like a bull or a minotaur, one of those bullish like monsters that will like point their horns at you and start coming after you to hurt you. And this entity, this person was running after this, I think it's a girl, and it was actually even stretching out its arms trying to strangle her. The same question I keep asking you, what would you do?
Wow. Yeah. I mean, so some thoughts here. First, nothing happened. I mean, the thing was just staring at the person laying in the bed, not really doing anything, just standing there breathing, until she heard the word. What was it? Turn or look or something like that. Uh, and it was when this person obeyed the sound, uh, obeyed the voice and turned back, that it was like a switch was flipped, and now this entity had um, authority to be able to attack them. Now, when you were reading it, I was imagining like a rake-like creature with its mouth like hanging open, screaming, reaching with long clawed hands to freaky. What would I do? I would be grabbing the knife from underneath my mattress, and we would be going to town.
But that's only if the person is in flesh.
That's right. It would not be in flesh when I was done with it, but yeah.
That's funny. Okay. Okay, so now the superhero dog comes to the rescue, and then I think it's a girl keeps telling her story. I don't even know how long I was in this room for until feeling these cold hands wrap around my mouth, pinned on the bed as if I thought I was going to die. I thought she was about to say wrap around her neck, but it was around her mouth. Thank goodness for having my brother knocking down the door with our uncle and my dog being by their side. Believe it or not, our family came from a long line of great chiefs and leaders. So these are probably Native Americans. So she's coming from the great family of chiefs and leaders, and with the language my uncle spoke. I'm 21 years of age now, and I have not been possessed or have ever seen a bad ghost since. Okay, so she thinks this was a ghost, but I think this was something way worse than a ghost.
Right, and so there's something interesting in here with the language that my uncle spoke. I wonder if what she's trying to say was that when they came in, her uncle spoke these words over her, these ancient words over her, and now these things aren't around. I would almost wonder if the type of demonic entity we're dealing with in this situation, because of the fact that Native American, wouldn't be something like a Wendigo or like a shape shifting, what do you call it, skinwalker.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know, it's possible, but yeah, in a way this the uncle who's like a chief or a leader,
Mm.
or at least their family's coming from that lineage, but I mean it still stays in your blood. It's almost like the spirit of the family, if I can use those words.
Oh yeah,
It's almost like as if he was able to help her um by uttering some words,
yeah.
and we don't know what he spoke. It's not revealed to us, but nevertheless, a very interesting story. And I'm glad that the person never seen any. Well, at least she's not aware. But I'm glad that she didn't witness anything paranormal since then. Do you want to go with the next one?
Yes, I do. When I first moved out of my parents' house, I lived in an old but recently renovated annex building on a farm. I was the first person to live in this building. It was really old and looked like it could have been an old pig shed. The farm was also really old, and there were remnants of an old priory about 50 meters from the farmhouse and annex, which also had an old excavated graveyard. One of the skeletons is in our local town museum, as it's the tallest man to ever live in my local area. That's not cursed at all. Weird stuff happened pretty much from the day I moved in. Orbs and photos, unexplained thumps and bangs, all the usual ghost stuff. The annex was really small, tiny shower room slash toilet, then a tiny kitchen, then a tiny living room, and then a bedroom. Each room had its own door. One day I was in the shower, and when I got out and went through to the kitchen, all the cupboards were open. Nope, we're out. We would nope directly out. Twice I had opened a kitchen cupboard and had a glass and a mug fly out. Also, no, not at all. As in, literally fly out and hit the wall behind me. Nope.
Sean, this was like in the previous episode, the first story in the basement where those cans were flying out. This is
Yeah.
the same activity. This is the same thing happening.
Yeah, he had. I mean, I understand he's probably strapped for cash and whatnot, but I mean, dude, I don't live with ghosts, so we would have to move. I think that he would probably be better off living in his car.
Well, unless see, here's where the controversy comes from. When I had Doug for a couple of episodes last year, and he's a minister and dealt with supernatural and with people's possession and demonic oppression and what he called uh something like cleansing your house and cleansing the land. Um we were also talking about uh we covered a number of topics, but we were also talking about ghosts and like why sometimes when Christians, I had this lady friend on Facebook who was a woman of God and told me that her kids and her husband, they're all Christians, yet this ghostly activity in her home would not stop. And I was confused because I would imagine, like, just with the demonic activity, once when you uh command in the name of Jesus, that's it, it's gone. But she told me whatever she tried, regardless of prayers, rebuking, it will always come back. And when I would say that to some Christians, especially, a little bit fundamentalists, Pentecostals, whatever, they're like, no, that's impossible. If you command it in Jesus' name, it should never return. I'm like, okay, that's in theory. I believe it. I'm not against it. But in practical life, this lady is not having success. So how's that working? That must be discouraging. That must be scary. Like because you just said I would move out if there's a ghost activity in my house. Of course we would first try and to pray against it, to fast, rebuke it, whatever. But the question is, if this ghost activity comes back, why is it coming back if we as people of God rebuked it and there's no unrepentant sin, there's no one in the family doing the witchcraft? So then could it be that someone before us was doing something that cursed the land or maybe the house, and we don't know because the previous owner or the previous tenant left and we don't know, and they never repented out of that? So maybe there's something that is holding to this entity and not us. I mean, I'm just speculating because it's such a vague topic.
Yeah, what I would do, and of course I've never really been in the situation, but just thinking off the top of my head, like you said, unrepentant sin, that would be a huge one because Jesus said this about demons, but it's applicable here where he leaves and he comes back and he finds the place swept and in good order, and he brings seven worse than himself. And I think that that would be the same thing with cleansing a house. If you cleanse the house, but you are still in unrepentant sin, well, the house actually isn't closed to these things because it's open, because you're not actually abiding under the covenant of God. You're living outside the covenant. And so you're outside of that protection. If it's not unrepentant sin, um, and I would I honestly like go through spiritual counseling, because I think most people, if they're honest with themselves, you can find at least one area in your life that you could improve on, right? So if it's not unrepentant sin, then we might be dealing with some sort of like ancestral sin that you might have to try to just think about, like, what are things that your ancestors recently would have done that would have affected you, that maybe has affected your habits, and maybe you need to denounce those. You could have certain attachments due to spiritual things that have happened to you that you need to denounce. I mean, it's really speculative in this area because we don't have any manuals on this, but really just try to get deep on and get with a pastor. And if you exhaust your pastor in areas like this, you might need to talk to somebody who is a little bit more knowledgeable in this area with your pastor. Bring your pastor with you, include him in on the conversation. Make sure you're not doing anything hokey, but you might need to get involved with a ministry that would do something like this. And at the end of the day, if it really is just the land is cursed, and there's been like a desecration happen to this land, and it would take something big to remove that. Like you would have to have like a worship involved there. I know something that the Roman Catholics will sometimes do is that they will bring like they will bring like Eucharist into the place and have like a small little where you receive the Eucharist in the house, and that kind of calms things down because you're celebrating and you're consecrating the area. And I think even Protestants, we could do the same thing, have a little Bible worship thing. But if that doesn't cure it, and I mean at that point you're probably just going to have to move. And as a Christian, like, yeah, I wish that we had the authority, and the Bible says we have authority, but you get to that point where, okay, on paper that looks great, but experientially that's not what's happening. Well, we're not just going to ignore it, right? Like we've done all the steps and it's still not leaving. I guess that we just don't belong here.
I think in that case, the Christian who is suffering defeat, it can be very discouraging for their faith, especially if they're new in faith for let's say 6 months, a year or two. Oh my gosh, I can only imagine the number of questions and doubts that would arise. I mean, I would be dealing with that as a supposedly seasoned Christian. I don't know if I'm seasoned Christian, but let's say hypothetically I am after 20 years. But let's say someone who is new in faith, man, that can seriously put him to doubt God's word and his goodness and loyalty. That would need some special um, counseling on itself, I think.
Well, and and it could be also we have to remember the providence of God. It could be that it's not that there's something wrong with the area, that God is literally just not casting these things out because He doesn't want you there. You've got somewhere else to be, and of course that's obviously not something that normally happens. People don't get kicked out of their house by ghosts all the time, but I mean we got to keep in mind God is providential and He's going to move you where He wants you. So we got to be in God's will.
Yeah, that's actually biblical. We see this in Old Testament when God's people wouldn't listen. God would even use heathens like, "Go, I will put you in slavery. I will punish you. I will, because you're not listening to me, and I will use any means and any vessels I want to teach you a lesson." So, yeah, you're right. That's biblical.
Yeah, and that's like Paul wanted to go to Asia, and Christ prevented him from going to Asia. He had to go to Europe. So there are times where God will get in front of your plans and say, "No, you're not doing that." Yeah,
Yep.
you want something good, but I want something greater for you.
Amen.
All right. Okay. If I ever fell asleep on my sofa in the living room, I would be woken up by a man's voice angrily shouting "Hello" at me. My TV would turn on in the night. My phone would randomly start playing music for no reason. I had my best friend stay over one day after we had been out drinking. We were both hungover, and she went to bed in my bedroom while I was zonked out on the sofa. She's shouting at me to wake up, or, oh no, to stop walking around. Why can't you sit down? And I was sitting down. I couldn't hear the footsteps, but she definitely could. I would also lose things in my bedroom all the time: jewelry, makeup, etc. A new lady started at my workplace, and little did I know she was a bit psychic. I had never spoken to her about where I lived or that weird stuff that happened in my house all the time. One day, totally out of the blue, she told me there's a woman who likes to come to my house and play, and she really likes the teddy on the bedside table. Honest to God, there is no way she could have known this. She went on to say that the woman is from a long time ago and has learning difficulties, and the monks used to look after her. At this point, my mind was totally and utterly blown. She told me to buy her a teddy and put it next to my one. only bedside table. I was skeptical, but willing to give anything a go because I hated living there so much. I was so scared and freaked out so often, so I did, and everything stopped. Nope, nope, do not appease the spirits. Nope, we do not befriend evil entities. We do not reward bad behavior.
You know, I honestly hope that things went well for this lady. Uh, this is so vague. I don't know if you can please a ghost or a spiritual being with just buying them a toy because they supposedly suffered and now they're alone and whatever. Um, yeah, there's so much we don't know here, and I mean, she was for the time being, she was fine. What will happen later in her lifetime in that location, but also some other locations? Because as we know in some stories, these orbs or shadow people or entities, they follow people, certain people. Why? I don't know, but they're like a target. They're like a walking, living target. So you can move to towns, cities, states, houses, doesn't matter. They'll follow you. I don't know why. There must be something, but we don't know why. Or maybe sometimes we do know, but in general, we don't. So I hope this lady was fine eventually.
Yeah.
But I mean, when you move out and another person comes in, would they also have to buy teddy bears? It's like, oh, it's I don't know. It's a torment. Imagine a new wed family or a family with a baby moving in a place like that. That's a torture. That's that's like being worse than having apartment infected. I mean, um, than apartment being just
Infested.
full with rats and bugs and cockroaches, but now it's infested. That's the word. It's infested, not with rats or cockroaches. It's infested with demons or ghosts. Yeah, like you said, just go. In this case, don't even try fighting or whatever. Just go. Pray
And
God to lead you out of that situation. Just go somewhere where He leads you to be safe.
and I wonder what would be the difference between buying a stuffed animal or a figure to appease a spirit and an idol. What is the difference between that? Because honestly, if you're giving this thing to appease this spirit, you just brought an idol into your bedroom and you turned your bedroom into a temple. I wouldn't want to live there.
That's a very good point. I didn't think about it. I was just like, oh, let this supposed ghost just leave you alone. So yeah, it's okay. But now when you mention that, yeah, that actually brings some heavy load and more context to the whole topic. That's a good point.
Because are you ever going to think of that bear as yours? No, that's hers. So now you have something that belongs to this spirit in your room. You've given it an offering.
Ooh, that's deep. That's deep. Yeah, yeah. Okay, I'll read the next one. A friend of mine studied in a Catholic school in high school and had many paranormal encounters, but what spooked her out the most was this. It was night and almost everyone had left, but she and her classmates were practicing for some event until late at night in their school. She went to the restroom to pee, and after that, she washed her hands. I'm glad
Yeah.
you put all these details. We could have easily skipped this sentence, but that's okay. I'm glad she washed her hands.
Yes.
The restroom has 3 stalls installed and no door, so you could see whoever passes by outside. Okay, I don't like that design, but whatever. She was busy washing her hands when it noticeably became cold. Oh, I know this story. The ending is so creepy. So it became so cold, like colder than it has ever been in the building. She was beginning to get scared, but she shrugged it off as a sudden breeze. That's when a nun appeared on the doorway wearing bloody clothes and clutching a rosary in both hands.
Nope.
Talking about spirits being afraid of rosary or whatever. Man, they know the prayers and Bible much better than us, upside and down. They know everything. So the bloody nun, the dead nun that was standing there, it was walking towards this girl. My friend screamed and then began citing the words to the Hail Mary. But why to the Hail Mary? Why? I mean, I understand it's a Catholic school, but why not something about Jesus?
Right, right. Yeah, I would. Honestly, she's holding a rosary. I think it's time to go above Mary's head. We need to talk to the big boss.
Exactly. Like, let's go to the chief of everyone. That's a good point.
No
Yeah.
disrespect to the Mother of God, but yeah, no, we need to talk to the big man.
Yeah. He didn't do anything. Oh, surprise.
Surprise!
So citing the words to Mary, to the Hail Mary, didn't do anything because halfway through the prayer, oh, pay attention to this. Halfway through the prayer, the nun, the dead nun, opened its mouth and recited the prayer with her. Because it didn't do anything. So
Okay,
it wasn't afraid. She was like, I'll join you, my child.
I don't want to pray prayers that demons can pray. Okay.
Yeah. Try that with our Father in heaven. There's
Yeah.
no way
Oh,
a demon or a ghost would pray that. Like it would
not at
maybe
all.
drop dead. But like Hail Mary, oh yeah, I'll pray that because it doesn't do anything to me. Wow. I hope in all love, because on this channel we work with our Orthodox
Yeah.
brothers, and one day we'll work with Catholics as well. I did invite one bishop who is an exorcist, but he was busy and going through the surgery. So yeah, I plan to work and love on every guest who comes from every area of life on the podcast. But this is my loving, sobering call to my Catholic and Orthodox brothers. Remember who is the author and the perfecter of our faith. It's no human being. It's Jesus.
Right, right. There is one name. There is one name under which all of heaven, earth, and under the earth bows, and it's not Mary.
Amen. Amen. At that point, the girl knew she couldn't do anything to save herself. If the demonic nun was praying with her instead of backing away, she knew she was in trouble, so she did the most reasonable thing at the moment. She passed out. How is this reasonable? This is hilarious. This is like this is on the level hilarious. Like, oh, the ghost looked like Adrian Brody. Like, what the heck? Like, what kind of comparison is that? Like, this is on the same level. Like,
She
the
went
demonic
in.
nun was attacking me, and I was scared. So I decided to do what's the best. Like, she thought the demonic nun was like a bear. If you just play that, it will leave you alone. Like that. Like, who taught you this? And this was supposedly the best thing. So what about praying to God? What about rebuking in the name of Jesus? What about running away? No, you just pass away and hope you'll wake up and it's all peachy around you. Everything resolved, right? So she passed out and was woken up by her classmate 30 minutes later. And that's where the story ends. It's a very short story. And I'm glad the girl washed her hands, but she also passed away as the weapon to fight against this demonic nun. This is such a funny story, but it's also, I mean, if I was in the shoes of this poor girl, I'll be also terrified. I'm glad she ended up well, but man, she could have done more if they taught her better in this Catholic school. I just wish she received better theological and spiritual education.
The sad thing is Roman Catholics know the Lord's Prayer better than Protestants because they have to recite it so much. Why wouldn't she just I mean, if the demon started praying the Hail Mary with her, then let's just switch and go to the Our Father, or Glory Be, or anything that would, we're going to call on Jesus. We're going to call on the Holy Trinity to fight against this demonic creature that is. I mean, obviously she's doing something sacrilegious, and obviously Christ doesn't want his mother portrayed this way, as being an assistant to this demonic nun. Uh, But yeah, dude, you gotta pull out the big guns there.
You know what question just popped in my head?
What's that?
So presumably nuns and priests and pastors, they all, serve God, love God, even though we all sin. So unless this was a familiar spirit that was mimicking a nun, imagine, just imagine, I'm not saying it is, if this was actually the ghost of the dead nun who for some reason didn't end up, being standing before God waiting for judgment, good or bad judgment, I don't know. But imagine if this was not a familiar spirit, but the real nun. The question is, well, if she was holding the rosary and praying Hail Mary, God knows what was happening. Again, we're just assuming that would hold this nun or her spirit, stuck in this realm, in this life, instead of going before God. Because if you died with Jesus, then you're with Jesus. You're not stuck here. So that brings so many questions, unless it was a familiar spirit. And do you want to maybe clarify to people what is the difference between familiar spirits and ghosts? Because sometimes when I speak with Christians, they're like, "There are no ghosts; they're only demons." So if a person if a dead person shows up and you think it's your dead relative, sibling, parent, whatever, it's not a ghost. There's no such a thing. It's a familiar spirit. This is what so many Christians I hear them saying. And that's only partially true because the Bible does talk about ghosts. So maybe you want to clarify for the audience what are exactly familiar spirits.
Yeah, there used to be a show on the Travel Channel where there was this guy who would go into these haunted places, and he would have this spirit that he would talk to that would tell him what was going on. And I think he called his spirit Sam or something like that. That's an example of a familiar spirit. A familiar spirit is a spirit that from which you get your power. There's a reason that a witch's animal is called a familiar. It's not actually an animal, it's a shape-shifted form of this spirit. And we think uh, that the witch has a responsibility to care for the animal. And you see that in Harry Potter, the familiars that they get, the owls and the rats and the stuff like that. It's actually the exact opposite. The familiar spirit is the Lord owns that witch, and so that is the spirit that is giving them the power to do the things that they do, and it's also the one to whom all the sacrifices are offered. So that is different than a ghost or even just a demon, in the fact that a demon might just be doing general demon stuff instead of working with a human in this form of operation. And a ghost is a disembodied spirit. Um, I'm I'm not sure how to fit a ghost necessarily into a Christian worldview, but I know that the Bible talks about ghosts. They thought Jesus was a ghost more than once. Once while he was walking on the water, and then the second time when he walked through the locked doors. So they had a category for ghost, but with the idea that when a Christian dies, they're immediately in the presence of the Father. Um, that that's something that obviously our Roman Catholic and Orthodox brothers and sisters would want to contend against that. But uh, yeah, I'm not sure how to get a category for ghosts, but I know that the Bible has it, and so it doesn't have to make sense to me.
So would you maybe say that familiar spirit is actually a demonic entity that knows your condition, your life? Maybe you're grieving after someone who just passed in your midst. Maybe you know your cousin, your relative, your sibling. And now this familiar spirit is mimicking the shape, the voice, and the character of the dead person, portraying as a friendly ghost who came to visit you so you can say goodbye or maybe, send a message to you. But actually, it's this familiar spirit that is becoming familiar to you through this dead person that you know and is mimicking and camouflaging itself through this friendly face, quote unquote, but it's actually a demon behind it. That's how all this time I understand that people uh, would identify familiar spirits. So it's a demon that will camouflage itself as a ghost of the person whom you love, coming to you with a message or with some, comfort, whatever. And but actually you're being deceived because it's a demon in disguise.
So if that's what they want to say, like what some believers want to say that a familiar spirit is, I can make sense of that. You know, it's a demon doing demon stuff. A familiar spirit isn't technically a spirit that's familiar with you. It's a spirit that you're familiar with. And so, because I mean, you're surrounded by demonic spirits and angelic spirits all the time because they're not actually present in space. Um, so we're always kind of, we have them studying us all the time. So it wouldn't put them in a different category just because they're familiar with us. What puts them in that category is us being familiar with them. But yes, if they want to use that terminology to say it's a spirit that's familiar with you, that is coming to trick you and entice you, sure, yeah. I mean, that's it. That's what demonic spirits do. Now,
Okay, yeah.
oh, well, and something that you had said about this, what's interesting, honestly, is that in Roman Catholic theology, it is possible for the spirits in purgatory to come and ask for prayers. Um, so it could very well be that in Roman Catholic theology, I'm not Catholic, you're not Catholic, but in Roman Catholic theology, it could be that this nun was suffering in purgatory and needed prayer and came to this girl, and this girl is praying the Hail Mary, and she's like, yeah, no, actually that's the reason I'm here. Like, I need we need to go up higher. Now, a Roman Catholic may say, yeah, but if you're not saved, you don't get to purgatory. Purgatory is for saved people. Unsaved people just all go to hell. Yeah, I don't know what to do with that, but I do know that they believe it's possible that a spirit from purgatory can come to ask for prayers.
Wow. Okay, I didn't know that. Do you want to switch to the next story?
Yeah, I've long been told my great grandfather's house is haunted, very haunted. I've even experienced some. Many of them will not harm you, and I don't even notice them anymore. One will tap you on the shoulder as you enter. We all say it happens and don't think much of it. Sometimes you'll hear someone go up the stairs, but everyone is in the room. Initially, we kept my great grandfather out of the house because we thought there was an intruder. Eventually, we knew there wasn't, so we called it the boy on the stairs. Not all of them are so kind. We call the one in the cellar the demon. It's not often we go down there anymore. You feel his eyes in the back of your head. You hear his groans every now and then. You can't stay down there for long because you feel physically sick. The worst of the batch is the one that we call the horror. I personally have never experienced it firsthand, but I was there when my dad did. He was trying to get my grandfather's attention when from in front of my grandfather, three figures sped towards my dad. My grandmother's dog began to growl and snarl and roar. This is a dog who I had never heard so much as a bark out of my entire life, and he went crazy. People always say dogs can see spirits, and this dog could definitely see this one. My dad was telling the full story when I was older. Halfway through, he paused, made a face that can only be described as utter fear and pain, and then passed out. We took him to the hospital, and he was unconscious for 3 hours. My grandmother told me the rest, and we never spoke of it again. Man,
where where to even start with this story? So these are friendly ones, like on the attic, but in the cellar, we call the demon. We can feel its uh, eyes on our backs. It's watching us, and then these three shadowy figures, spitting up in front of her dad, and later when he was, witnessing the story or telling the story, he passed out for 3 hours. I mean, you don't pass out just for nothing. It must have been such a terror that snapped something in your brain. There was so much stress, maybe even adrenaline in your body. Just your body couldn't deal with that fear, anxiety, stress, whatever, and you just passed out. That's how your body defends itself, maybe to even stay alive. I don't know. Like you don't, but that doesn't happen if you're just lying. You cannot shock your body into passing out and doing all of this if this is just you want to lie, especially when the whole family is witnessing this. And imagine not being even able to go to a whole huge section of your house because you know there's a demon in the cellar. Like it's almost like it lives there, and it's like that's it's like dominion. Like you go, you know, good luck if you go there. Like, dude, how do you even live in circumstance like that? Like,
Well, and notice the repetition of the number three in this story. There were three, uh, three beings in front of the figure, or in front of the grandfather that sped towards the dad. He was unconscious for 3 hours, and then we got three categories of spirit: the kid on the stairs, the demon, and the horror. So there's this repetition of the number three in this story, and they say that the number three is very common in demonology because it mocks the Trinity.
I was just about to say, but how so when three is supposed to represent something so holy and godly, because of the Trinity? But I understand, like, this is reversing like Holy Trinity, unholy Trinity, like the Satan, the false prophet, and the Antichrist. Maybe in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, well, and if you think how many of these stories involve the spirits of children, and children are supposed to represent something innocent, and so they take that and pervert it, just like in dark magic. You use the blood of an animal. Well, in the biblical Old Testament sacrificial system, the blood of the animal was used to cleanse sin, and so in this you pervert it, and the blood of the animal is used to bring greater taint and desecration. So yeah, these spirits just take what is God's and they twist it and desecrate it.
Man, that's a good point. I'll go with the next one. When I was young, about some months old, and my mom told me this, it was me, my mom, uncle, and cousin who used to live together. Dad was home only on weekends due to his job. A pretty scary series of events led my family to change cities. One time I was in my stroller in the other room as my mom was in the kitchen making food when she saw me giggling as if I was playing with someone. She ignored the giggles for a while until she came and saw small muddy footprints all over the walls and ceiling.
Nope.
So I'm in my little studio now and I'm looking at the ceiling as if, trying to, almost be there back in passing time, like with this little girl. Like, if this is true, this demonic being will have to walk upside down. Oh my gosh, I don't want to think too much, but yeah. So the footprints were muddy, small, and coming from the ceiling. Okay, so
Small.
this implies that there was like a ghost activity of a child.
What did we
I'm just
just say
thinking.
about children? What did we just say about demons
Yeah,
and children?
yep. My mom was terrified, but then these incidents started to happen often. Every time she lay down with me to sleep, and she would hear a whispering saying, I want your kid. Dude, I got goosebumps. This is worse than Freddy Krueger movies. I want your kid. So I don't want you. I want your kid.
Yeah.
I still remember she showed me a video that she recorded of a very heavy lock moving as if someone was trying to move it on its own. They would hear knocks on the door, only for no one to show up. They would hear windows shattering, etc. My uncle was sleeping one night and saw my mom walking into his room. At least that's what he thought. And then he asked her, what are you doing staring at me like that in the middle of the night? As soon as he asked her this, she became violent and hurt him. Dude, I don't think that was your mom at all. This was the last straw. My mom took me to my nana's house and told my dad she won't come back here. It was like my family has a curse or something. I don't know if your family has a curse, but this would be too much for everyone.
Yeah.
First, hearing about your child that a demon is saying, I want your child, and then demon manifesting. We mentioned shapeshifters a few times tonight. Shapeshifting almost, or if, like we mentioned, familiar spirits, not taking what your definition, but of some people telling me, familiar spirits equal gods. I mean, equal, um, demons impersonating ghosts of the dead relatives or, family members. So this will be, another thing. Someone would show up looking, changing shape to look like her mom and attacking her own brother. So the girl's uncle. So whatever it was personal because it wanted the baby, and whom it would attack because who was guarding the baby? It wasn't the father, unfortunately, because father was often absent. And I wish the lady told her husband earlier, look, this is happening. I need you more often at home. And you need to change jobs, and we need to get out of this. See, this demonic entity or entities would attack mother and the uncle because they were there protecting the child. So this entity was targeting the child, not the adults, but the child.
Yep.
And that's
And
all we know. Like why, we can only speculate.
yeah, well, I think we know why. I mean, demons don't change, right? Moloch is something that we know from the scripture that demanded the blood of the children of the Israelites. Um, and I think had they stayed in this house, it would have gotten more violent. And I think probably possession situation, and one of them would have ended up sacrificing the child, um, which is something that you know happens sadly.
Do you think I mean, how do we know we're not demonic entities? But what would they get from the sacrifice of the animals or people? Do they get somehow charged? Do they get happy? Does this give them certain power that even demonic entities become bigger, stronger, more powerful? Does this somehow feeds them because they cannot literally drink blood? Like, how is that working? Why is the blood that satisfy demonic entity, right?
I think the blood being spilled has a similar effect to what it did in Israel. That the blood there is a covering for the sacred space, and it removes the taint of sin and death. And I think in this situation, the blood there brings sin and death, and it establishes a desecrated space. So the demon, it's not that it gets bigger or stronger. It's that it is in this area, it is more present because of this, of all the things that have happened. And we see that in places where we've had like occult stuff happen, witchcraft, sacrifices. We see that those areas are extremely active, and it's because that place has been desecrated. And this is it. It is the equivalent for the demons to what the tabernacle was for the Jews, that the presence of their God can dwell there.
That's a good point. Thank you. Do you want to go with the next one?
Yeah. Years ago, when I was a teenager and still living at home, 200-year-old house in a medieval town, I was playing PlayStation in the good sitting room. We weren't allowed to eat food or wear shoes in that room. I was totally into my game, and then my little brother plodded in, really stomping his feet, shoes on, and crunching on what I assumed to be a packet of crisps. No food allowed. He sat in a chair to my right. I didn't take my eye off the game, but I saw the movement from the corner of my eye. He kept crunching and crunching, and I shouted to him, "Get out!" With that, he got up and stomped back out. A while later, when my game was finished, I went downstairs and gave out about him to my mother. I told how he was doing his best to make me lose my game by being really annoying, crunching crisps really loud. She looked at me like I was crazy. Then she told me that he wasn't at home since morning. He was at his friend's house. I can still hear the crunching, and I can still see him out of the corner of my eye. It was so clear. There was someone there. I also experienced pokes in my back while I tried to sleep, heard someone on the stairs, but no one there. Things would often be moved around, but no one had moved them, that sort of thing. Fast forward to several years ago, roadworks were taking place, and outside the house they discovered a medieval skeleton of a child. They believed she was a sacrifice as she was facing the sea, was not within the abbey boundaries. The house is on an old abbey and was posed. She is still there. They believe she is probably one of many. So we just talked about desecrated space and how they can be active in that area. And we have a child sacrifice literally on the land that he lives on.
Man, this is such a sad story. So, if this is all true and no one was hurt, again, we come to that subtopic that we mentioned in the earlier episode, where maybe there could be some ghosts there. I don't know if I can call them Casper, good, friendly, house ghosts, but ghosts that don't hurt people. Maybe they just need justice. Maybe they just need someone to pay attention to them. Maybe they just need maybe there was something unresolved that they wanna almost, I don't know, almost play or share a message with humans so they can discover something that will bring peace to these ghosts. I don't know, but this seems like an almost like an innocent ghostly girl or ghost of a dead girl that was sacrificed, and she just needed a company. um I don't know if ghosts can be lonely, but one thing just bothers me in the whole story. Thank God no one was hurt.
Mm.
But like this ghost was able to manifest in flesh and to eat chips. That's that kind of bothers me a lot. Not a lot, a bit. Um how? Because if demons can shapeshift and manifest in flesh, we don't know that about ghosts. Because even Jesus says, "Look at me, touch me, I'm not ghost." So
Yeah.
ghosts cannot do the same thing as the demon, cannot manifest in flesh, or like the angels, cannot manifest in flesh. So does it mean that this was not just a ghost, but a demon that resembled the girl and was able to manifest and eat chips? We don't know, but it's a very interesting story.
Well, and so here's so full speculation. Just on the idea of maybe a ghost could be a thing. If it has the if it has the property of will, that it can exercise its will in certain areas, like you said, maybe it's trying to get resolution for something. If it has that will, could the ghost accept the gospel? you know right, like what do we do with that? Not that we'll ever know, and obviously the Bible forbids us specifically from speaking to the dead, so we could never find out. Um, but what do you do? I mean, if you have something like this that was pre-Christian, that was killed as a sacrifice, if it is a ghost, I tend to think it's not, but if it was a ghost and it was present and it has will, and like you said, it's just a young child, why should it not hear the gospel? Right? I mean, Jesus went to Sheol and spoke to the spirits that were in prison. So yeah, that's just another layer of what if.
Man, what you said in the last minute remind me why we call this segment Eerie Encounters. It perfectly resembles the name of the segment. Okay, I'll go with the next one. This was back when I was in California. I was 11 and my friend was 13. Me, my friend, and their parents went on a road trip. We were driving down the street. There was this woman. She was wearing a wedding dress. That's already a red flag, because if someone is wearing a wedding dress, they should be on the wedding with her husband.
I mean,
Unless she's a runaway bride like Julia Roberts, otherwise it could be something else that is just looking like her.
if I'm driving down the road and I see a woman in a wedding dress by herself, I'm gonna assume, just from what I know, it's a woman in white, which are typically trying to hitchhike and get to a graveyard or get to a place and say they need to be let out there. Yeah, it weird things happen.
And I don't even know if it's a ghost. Why does it need to be hitchhike? Can it just go there, fly, teleport? I don't. It's confusing, right? Like, why do you need a ride, dude? You're a spirit. It's
Yeah.
like, I don't know. Okay, so she was wearing a wedding dress. She stopped us and asked for a ride. We'll let her in the back seat. She said nothing. We That's weird. I have a million questions for a hitchhiker. Hey, where you coming from? What happened? Like, why are you in a wedding dress? Oh, by the way, you're a demon?
Yeah.
I'm not judging, I'm just asking.
Yeah.
She said nothing. We went to the place she wanted to go. Like you said, that they have a wish they need to go to a certain place, and it could be a graveyard. So she disappeared, and nothing but a wet spot left. Uh-oh. She took us to an abandoned cabin just down a dirt road. We drove away, of course. Okay. We never saw her again. But wait, it gets weirder. I like the way this person described. On the news, displayed on a TV, when we stopped at a restaurant, a picture of a woman is, okay, this is a misspelling, in a wedding dress popped up. We recognized her immediately. She was found dead in the cabin. She now haunts the road. It was her spirit we picked up. Ironically, we got hit by a drunk driver later that night. All of us survived but were minorly injured. We blame the spirit to this day.
So that's the end game. Is the spirit is looking for these people and then curses them
Yeah,
because it's
I just didn't understand the connection between them, finishing with the spirit. They were not harmed. But later, when, they're hit by a drunk driver later that night, why is that the spirit's fault? Is it because they were delayed by the spirit? Otherwise, they would have went far ahead and they wouldn't be hit by the drunk driver. But can a ghost even know what will happen in advance in future? I don't know.
I wonder if you were to ask the drunk driver if he said he swerved because he saw a woman in white in the road.
Yeah, but again, this seems as one of those cases like with children that were killed or sacrificed or had an accident when they were young. It seems like there was something unresolved. Like this woman being keeps asking, well, the spirit of that woman keeps asking different people to be drawn to a certain place, which is a cabin, keeps going back from point A to point B. There's nothing else. What would bring her peace, so to speak, if this is truly a ghost, not a demon? If it's a demon, there's no peace for the wicked. Like she'll be, demons will be uh, destroyed and tormented by God one day. But if it's a ghost, like what would have to happen so the ghost of the woman, if it's truly a ghost, would have peace and finally leave the place and stop asking to be hitchhiked? What will happen to be for the news reporters to go to this cabin, investigate, make a story of her, saying she was unfortunately killed because of this. This was unfortunate and unrighteous thing that happened to her. We agree with her. Would that hypothetically, we don't know, of course. Well, what if that would bring maybe some peace, that the ghost will receive some happy ending, so to speak, even though if it was a tragedy, it's a tragedy, and then maybe leave the place. It's like so many questions, and why would even God, if that's so, why would God even allow that for the spirit or a ghost of a person to stay here when the body dies and not go in the, you know, if you're with God, then you're in His presence when you die. If not, you're in the waiting space, right? In Sheol or whatever. So why would even God allow that if that's the case? Like so many, I have so many questions with this story.
And maybe we're falsely assuming because of the white wedding dress and obviously the terrible situation that happened to this woman. Maybe we're falsely assuming that she was an innocent woman. What if the reason that she was killed in her wedding dress was because she was a wicked woman and was in league with these demons? They killed her and now are using her image in order to cause greater havoc. I mean, If you are enslaved to a demon, it's kind of like a contract at Hollywood. They have perpetual use of your image and likeness. So maybe that's not her. It's just a puppet that's being manipulated by the demons.
Yeah, you're right. We don't know. Okay, you want to go with the next one?
All right. When I was 8 years old, my sister and I had a weekend visit with my grandparents in their suburban home outside of the city. There was one particular room in that house that we always felt weird in. It was a tiny room with a little closet and a window and could only really fit a dresser and a single bed. Perfect for a kid's room. The way the single bed was positioned was on its side against the wall furthest from the door. My sister and I were so small and we hated sleeping in there, but that was the only room for us both. We took turns on these visits, saying whose turn it was to sleep with your back facing the room, as the other would sleep on the side of the bed with the wall against them. On that particular weekend, it was my turn to sleep on the edge of the bed. I didn't want to, but that was our only agreement in that house. So the way we would handle it was to face each other with our back turned towards the room and door. It didn't help that my grandparents refused to leave any light on at all for us to glow while we slept. When nighttime came, we dreaded going to sleep. I always wished that time would slow down so that I was far away from having to sleep in that room. They always reassured us that we were safe and very, very loved, and nothing could ever happen to us to scare or harm us. For some reason, I woke up in the middle of the night, as a lot of us do, and decided to turn onto my other side, now facing the room door. As soon as I turned around, I saw a small young child around my age in a long white dress just staring at me. The kind of dress made of pure cotton, with high neck frills, long sleeves, and down to her ankles. When I looked at her dress and peered down, I saw that she appeared to be floating with no feet, just a white mist. At the same time, I have I have never seen in my life such a bright, blinding light coming from nothing. She was blinding me with this light, like a massive halo completely encompassing her. The light was so blinding that it lit up the room. I mean, right? Satan appears as an angel of light, right? So just because it's light doesn't necessarily mean that it's of God. I mean, Moroni came to Joseph Smith appeared as an angel of light, right?
Yeah, and and those UFO stories and stories with the Skinwalker Ranch, people are usually followed by the orbs of light.
Yep.
So, yeah, like you said, the light is not always light of God.
No.
So,
The light was so blinding that it lit up the room. I looked at the window and could see the blinder curtains were still drawn, with not a millimeter of space to let in any light, as was the door closed. The room was pitch dark, but the girl child was standing right there beside the bed, several feet away from me, like a giant ball of blinding white light. I could feel my heart pounding out of my chest, and I started yelling in terror and shaking my older sister to wake up from her deep sleep, all at the same time looking over my shoulder, checking to see if the girl was still there. Um, yeah, yeah, it was still there, and she was. When I finally woke my sister up, I yelled, demanding that she tell me if she could see what I was seeing. I told her, "There's a girl in the room. There's a girl in the room. She's staring at me and not moving. Can you see her?" She said no. She couldn't see anyone. My sister told me that I must have been dreaming and that there was nothing there, but I could still see this girl's stoic face staring at me, not moving at all, and with this piercing light coming out of her from every crevice, as if I was staring into the sun. Although my sister,
Sean, just a second. So, when I'm listening this, while I'm listening to this, I have some doubts slash questions such slash thoughts. First, if it's an angelic appearance, usually angels, when God send them and they approach humans, they usually say, "Don't be afraid."
Right.
There's nothing that they hear. They just, it's just like this ominous silent presence. The second thing that bothers me is that why one girl can see it and another one cannot. It
Right.
means that this entity is targeting this girl, not her sister. Again, why? Not both. I don't know. And she chooses how, again, I don't know, to appear herself to one girl, but also covering herself to another girl simultaneously. We're talking about some super advanced alien technology, not alien like out of space, but you know what I mean, spiritual, like, ability. And so again, first, we don't hear, "Don't be afraid, I'm from God," even if it's a lie. Nothing, just mute. Like, that's already a red flag. But of course, kids are kids, they don't know that. Second thing, one kid can see, another one can't. And the first girl was not, she was not sleepwalking, she was not, she was awake.
Hmm.
So the fact that the same entity in the same room can appear to one person but not to another. If it was adult who cannot see but kid can, we know stories like that. But in this case, they're both kids, so that's weird.
Yeah. Well, and as you were saying, that normally an angel will come and say, don't be afraid. And I don't actually think that an angel has the authority to come and reveal itself to a person without having a message from God. So God has to command it to go and do something. Um, and if you happen upon an angel and it's not sent from God, it's never a good thing, right? Like, I'm assuming. I mean, I'm thinking about the cherub at the Garden of Eden with the flaming sword that turns in every direction. It's not going to be a good day for you if you happen upon that angel, because it's got a job, which is to not let anyone in. Uh, that would mean that you have to die. So you don't want to just happen upon an angel. So if this appears in front of you and it's appearing as something that's angelic, it very well may be just not from God. So you might be in the presence of a demon, and like you said, it is targeting this one person and choosing how it will present itself. All right, I'm going to keep going here. Although my sister couldn't see anything, she quickly saw that I wasn't making it up. I was screaming and crying and kept saying, "Look, she's right there. Don't you see her?" She was terrified now. I begged her to switch sides with me, and her, being the best sister in the whole world, despite her being scared out of her wits, she switched with me. And all I remember is looking over my sister's shoulder and still seeing this young child, still staring at me in the white dress. We both buried our heads into the duvet and hugged each other, completely frightened. I eventually passed out from the exhaustion of absolute sheer terror. To this day, I remember that night like it was yesterday. I have many, many times asked my sister if she remembered me waking her up that night and telling her about the girl standing at the bed. She said every time, "Yep, I remember every part of it." Man, the fact that.
This
Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm just thinking, why one sibling and not the other one? Like, this girl was particularly targeted.
Yep.
Why? We don't know. Like, there's no way we can know. Things like this, when you're followed, or like we were just mentioning, skinwalk ranch. Uh, there's that phenomena. You can remind me, the hitchhiker effect, right?
Yep.
When you witness something paranormal, I don't know if you just witness something paranormal or you actually go for paranormal hunting and you see something, uh, and then when you go back, these entities follow you, right? Um, Even if entities don't follow you, like lighting orbs, shadowy figures, sleeping paralysis, you feel someone is looking at you, you have nightmares. All these things are side effects known to people who experience stuff like this from this hitchhiker effect. But even if you don't, go through some of these side effects. There's something that I think we can psychologically almost compare to having PTSD. Like there was this um, tragic event, a trauma that happened in my life. It wasn't war, it wasn't sickness, it wasn't that someone died, but it was actually a trauma because of paranormal activity and the terror I felt, me being someone else in this case, of course. That can haunt you until you die. I mean,
Yeah.
again, many times we're dealing with this, I don't know what word to use. If I say traditionalist, I think I'm traditionalist. If I say conservative, I'm conservative. If I say fundamentalist, I believe in the fundamentals of faith. So I'm not anti-fundamentalist, but fundamentalists, they're like the worst in their own kind. So sometimes when you deal with them, like in the case, like when we're talking about ghosts, like, oh, they should go in the name of Jesus, like it's impossible for them not to go. Like you should not have no problem. Yet they're Christians, so sometimes still do, even after praying, fasting, rebuking. So in this case, if you would speak with someone like that who's like very stubborn, they can be a brother or sister in Christ, doesn't matter. They cannot understand that something can still happen even if you're in Christ. They won't accept that. They will be like, well, did you pray? Did you rebuke it? Did you confess? This, all these things. But what if, despite of all these things, if you're in Christ and you had some paranormal activity, it could be 5 minutes ago, it could be 20 years ago, doesn't matter. What if that still follows you, at least as a terror or as a nightmare? You don't have to see or feel anything because maybe God is protecting you, and He is, not just maybe. But you can still have that PTSD regardless of prayers and fasting because there was a trauma in your life. I mean, we read some of the insane stories both last time in the last episode, your encounters with Shaun and Nick number 4, and tonight with episode 5. Man, like even if people of faith, imagine with that lizard man, or imagine with that demon in the basement. Imagine that crystal that turned the poor girl's eyes into black as she completely disappeared and lost consciousness and ability of her. As she's not in charge of her own body. Imagine that these things happen to you, and yeah, you can be walking with God. But don't tell me you will forget these things just because you're in Christ. Christ can heal you. Christ can give you assurance of peace. Like this thing will not happen. But it's not as if you're a Christian of a second order, second degree. Just if sometimes you have nightmare or fear of certain things because they can resemble of the trauma that happened to you in the past. Just as in the same way, if you're a soldier, you don't want to talk about war because maybe something horrible happened. Maybe you lost a friend. Maybe you were injured. You don't want to watch war movies. You don't want to talk about wars. If you hear or see war stories or images, videos happening now, people may change channels. It may not hurt me or affect me that way. But someone who went to actual war is currently having PTSD, and they can be in Christ. They can be even a minister, a chaplain, doesn't matter. But I'm just saying, even though we're in Christ, we're not like some supernatural people. Like we're still walking in these fragile bodies with fragile thoughts and emotions. And even though we are victorious and God is with us, there's not complete and total victory or healing in this life, in this body, in this condition, right? So again, I'm not a pastor, but I just say that I feel bad for people who are experiencing these things. They can be Christians or non-Christians, doesn't matter. If you're watching this and you're suffering from PTSD due to some traumatic experience, I don't want to name them. They can be from a criminal or from war, from political reasons, persecution for religious reasons, or maybe you had supernatural paranormal activities. First, always tell God as your best friend and as father. Don't be ashamed to share this. He already knows, but tell him how you feel. Tell him. Also, find a people, group of friends, even if it's only one or two, who will not think you're crazy if you share some stuff. You will have to be wise with whom you share information because not everyone has mental, spiritual, theological, um, and emotional ability to understand, to comprehend, and to give you wise advice, sound advice, what to do if you come with them with something like this. Um, and don't be ashamed. Like if you're wearing some emotional scars, all of us are. And even though Christ promised to heal us, some of that healing, some of that final breakthrough, again, doesn't happen in this life. And again, you don't have to be ashamed of yourself, of your past or your trauma, because it's all under the blood. God knows, and He's the one who is with you. Just as if you're watching this video and you used to be a prostitute or a gang member, if you're in Christ, that's gone. It's gone. If the devil comes accusing you, just talking, where's his place? The devil is the accuser of the brethren. But I just want to tell you, don't be ashamed if you have PTSD or nightmares or something like that, or even if you're still adult and still having some anxiety when it comes to the being alone in pitch black. Because like Shaun and I, we have sleep paralysis episodes. Thankfully, I didn't have something worse or more insane than that. But there are people, like we just read stories, who have or had these stories. So it will be very unrealistic to meet a person like that who had insane paranormal experiences. Just say, oh yeah, but I don't care, I forgot about it. No, you cannot forget. Maybe you're healed, maybe you're taken out of all of that if you're into a cult, or maybe, you know, astrology or magic, and thank God they've got put you out of these things. But these things can come up to you: images, voices, text, articles. You can get a sudden text message or email from a person that reminds you of that thing on the past. It evokes those negative, painful memories and trauma. And just be encouraged, to come before the throne of grace, to ask God for help, for healing, for breakthrough, and also to share with a friend or two. Don't feel embarrassed. As sometimes in our churches we can hear these things that people don't mean in a negative way, but when they are said, it almost makes the rest as their second level citizens in the kingdom of God. Like, if you don't speak in tongues, you're not this. If you don't do this, you're not this. If you don't give 10%, you're not this. It's always like this list of requirements, not to be maybe necessarily a child of God, but like to be acknowledged in the church, or maybe seen as someone who is a church leader, or this and that. All these titles we put on each other, right? This can be one of those things, like, oh, you prayed and you still have fear, or you prayed and you still didn't get a job, you prayed and your marriage is still not reconciled, you prayed and you still have that tumor or cancer. Like, oh man, your faith is so low. Shall Don't even listen to those people. They're ignorant, and maybe they don't mean harm, but they can harm you. And
Mm.
that's one of the reasons why people suffer church hurt and unfortunately leave churches and abandon even God, thinking, if people of God are like this, then maybe God is the same. Maybe He doesn't understand me. Maybe He doesn't love me. Maybe He doesn't care about my pain and suffering. So in a way, people can twist the image of God as He's the God of deism. He's some distant, cold entity that made us, but He's not my Father, because I don't have anything personal with me and Him. I speak to a wall. He doesn't listen. He doesn't care. God is on vacation. So this is the way that I didn't plan, but it just whatever. We can end this episode in this fashion. I just want to encourage you to seek. I mean, if some of you need professional help, hey, absolutely no judging. God gave us counselors and psychologists, including Christian ones, therapists, who are dealing with this type of profession and industry, and go for it. But I just also want to say that don't don't be shy or stressed, or thinking of yourself too low that you cannot come and tell these things to God, as if He doesn't care or if He wouldn't listen. And then find a circle of friends who can also listen to you. Maybe they didn't go through what you went through, but they can listen without ridiculing you, laughing at you, and you know pray for you, hug you. That's all we can do. I cannot carry my brother or sister's sin or divorce or sickness, pain. I can hug them and say, I pray for you, but I cannot actually feel the same pain and effort. Like my dad that's been battling with cancer, I'm grateful for people praying for him, but they cannot carry in the same load that my family can, because it's my dad, it's not their dad. So yeah, I mean, this is just my advice for people. And and I'll be done, and then you can take as much as time you want, Sean. But I'm also thinking, you know, before opening myself to, hey, there may be something spiritual and supernatural in this life. Before learning about Dr. Michael Heiser and him introducing with the topic of the divine council, Nephilim, cryptids, and all these things, and then people who would be less scholars but who would keep, you know, refining and researching more in this topic and turning into many subtopics. I wasn't into these things. I would always ridicule this. You know, now I'm upset. I would do that, but that's how I would be like, there's just God and angels, and then Satan, demons, and that's it. And these things, I don't care about them. Um, but I want to say that in the same fashion, when we try to defend our faith and preach and use apologetics as a powerful tool to speak to the atheists, and one of the reasons we will say when we speak about the integrity of the New Testament, including Jesus' resurrection, we will say, well, the apostles were eyewitnesses. They saw this, their lives were changed, and they wrote it down. Well, I know it's not the same, but how different it is when we read the encounters of people who encounter paranormal and they say, "Hey, look, my life has changed. I have anxiety. I cannot sleep well. I have PTSD. My blood pressure is going up. I cannot function anymore. I have these terrors and nightmares. I think something is following me, or I hear knocks on my door in the dead of the night, and I'm not crazy." Or people in people's life are changed. They're eyewitnesses. They speak and write about these things. Tell me how much that differs from the life of apostles who witnessed things, who were changed because of these things, and they wrote them down. Of course, they're not on the same level of maybe integrity, but certainly not on the same level of importance for us as people of God. I don't need paranormal experiences or eyewitness accounts in my life at all, but I need the gospel accounts. But the same way I would put accurate, the same level of credibility. Why not extending the grace that I have for apostles and the church fathers, even though I wasn't alive 2,000 years ago? Why not extending the same grace and say, hey, well, maybe if a million people in the world living now in different countries, in 200 countries in the world, testifying of the paranormal experience, writing down all these books, videos, blogs, forums, whatever. Could it be that they're all insane? Could it be that they're all lying? Could there be that they're all trying to gain some popularity or financial gain? No, that would be insane. So the same way I want an atheist to respect when I say, well, listen, 500 people saw resurrected Jesus. Uh, they wrote down their lives were changed. Well, the same application I can do with people who face paranormal. They're eyewitnesses, their lives change, always for worse, not for better. So it's not the same with the gospel, but they're the same patterns. So how come I can take with the apostles from granted it's merely on faith, but with paranormal, oh, it's all garbage or it's all demonic, and just close the case. It's not fair. I'm just saying it's not fair. Rather, if you even want to talk or dissect these topics, take the case by case and be open-minded and understand to learn to listen to people. Don't just prejudge and say it's all nonsense. I would do that, and I'm upset because of that. But this was before me being open to these things, learning what both scholarly and eyewitness reports are saying about all this unseen realm, right? The supernatural events, right? I'm not saying they're all true, or if they're happening, I'm not saying that I always understand why. But the same way we give grace and we believe the apostles and the accounts and their changed lives. Well, look, these people have nightmares. Uh, they can't sleep. They move out. Um, you know, do you think they're all insane or lying? So I'm just saying there are parallels. So if you're a Christian, give people grace. Listen before you prejudge them, and start caring maybe more. Because what if people I've listened, I heard stories that people are ashamed to testify about paranormal stuff in their midst because their coworkers, their neighbors, their friends, their family members, and their spouses would be ridiculing them and laughing at them. So they, the same way some people are scared to talk about Jesus because they're new to faith, some people are scared to talk about paranormal because of like side effects. And that being said, sorry to take the last 10 minutes or so by myself. I just wanted to talk about these things, and then I keep adding one and two and three and more things. But this will be my concluding thoughts. So we're done with stories. I just wanted to encourage people in a way to guard themselves, to seek Jesus, but also to be open-minded that there may be something else which they don't see, they don't understand, but there may be happening to people, and people are not lying, and they may not be insane. Floor is yours. You can take anytime you want to.
Well, it was very pastoral, Nico. I'm inspired by your passion. I can see God's hand on you, and this is definitely your calling, brother, um, to be able to reach out and touch people. Um, I'm just blessed to be able to be a part of this with you. I want
Thank
to
you.
I want to take a minute and speak to those in our camp who are more on the evangelical fundamentalist. The scripture is inerrant; it's sufficient. Um, we confess all those things, but if someone comes to you with a problem, like what Nika was talking about, and all you have for them is a Bible verse, that is just as well intentioned, but as detrimental as an atheist saying it never happened, because you're not acknowledging what they're going through. You're not acknowledging their pain and their experience, and now they're in this alone, and you've cut off the church as a means of comfort because you've dismissed them with a Bible verse. So we need to find a way as evangelical fundamentalist Christians to be able to create space for people who are going through these, and there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them that are going through this paranormal situation, and they're afraid to talk to us about it. And so where do they go? They go to the internet and they get involved with the new age because these are people who are willing to listen. We have the answers, but it's not a Bible verse. It is the body of Christ. It is the community. It is us coming together, loving one another, praying for one another, lifting one another up, intercessory prayer at night, lifting one another up. I mean, do we honestly think that these kinds of things would happen if the entire church was praying for this person at night? Or maybe it would slow down. Maybe it would stop altogether. We need to create a space where people are able to bring their experience to the church, and we would be able to help them. We would be able to offer them not just a Bible verse, but biblical wisdom that is hard won by scouring the scriptures and examining our own lives and walking with Christ. And that is what we need. That is what the world needs. And if you're someone who's suffering from paranormal activity, or if you're suffering with post-traumatic stress over something paranormal that's happened to you, put it in the comments. Maybe not your story, just say pray for me. We will pray for you because we need to be in this together. We're not going to cede this ground to the occult. We're not going to cede this ground to the pagans. This is where Christianity shines. This is where we have Christ and we can fight against the forces of darkness. We don't wrestle against flesh and blood. We do wrestle against these things. That is our job. And so let's go out there and fight.
Amen. You have heard the word from our brother priest Shaun. Of course, I just say priest as a fitting um, attribute whenever I see you, brother. So thank you for the wisdom. Thank you for passion and time and dedication. Uh, Thank you for serving us, all of us, on the podcast, and for this lovely conclusion. I would just invite everyone. Yes, please sharing, liking, subscribing, but also like what Shaun was saying, on each of our videos, not just with paranormal activities. If you have questions, shoot a question. If you have something to add on what we said or correct us, please do so. But also, if something is bothering you, maybe you want to come to Christ but have questions, or maybe you are in Christ but are dealing with doubts, questions, sin. We all sin, or like in this case, you may be dealing with some trauma and need prayers. Shoot a question or comment, and we'll see it, and we'll pray for you. In the meantime, be encouraged to seek the kingdom of God. Be encouraged to love Jesus. Uh, just understand that as much as the demons are afraid of him, with even more intensity, he loves us. And
Mm.
in the Gospel of John, it says that God loves us on the same level as Jesus. That is one of the things that, even though I read it in plain English or in my language, and I mean everyone can understand that it's a short verse, but that verse, whenever I read it, it always blows my mind because I cannot comprehend for the life of me that God the Father, the eternal one, God loves God the Son, the eternal one, on the same level that he, or actually that he loves me as his eternal son. That doesn't make sense. Who am I? I'm no one. I'm no one. I mean, I'm someone because of him and I'm someone in him. But Jesus never fails, Father. I do. Jesus never betrayed, Father. I did. Jesus never sinned. I do. And all these things, Jesus doesn't have the beginning. I do. Jesus is a God man. I'm just a man. So please understand that you can always come to Jesus for anything, and just understand that believing in him and trusting him is a believing loyalty. So pursue that covenant with him and stay in it regardless of your failures, sin, dirt, um darkness in you. Just confess it. Come to Jesus, confess, start over. If you fall, start over again. I know how it feels to beat yourself and almost hate yourself and being judgmental towards yourself. I know that, but just know that as much as he has grace towards everyone else, he has the same amount of grace and love to you. So come to Jesus, love him, pour out all your stress, anxiety, sin, um, and fear, because this is a topic of fear, right? Paranormal, to him, and he will do miracles in your life. That being said, we're done with episode 5 of Eerie Encounters with Shaun and Nick. Thank you for being with us. God bless you and be encouraged.